Every time Disney announces another live-action remake, I find myself asking the same question. Who is this actually for? That question feels especially relevant with Moana. The original movie came out in 2016. It's not some forgotten classic buried in Disney's vault for generations. It's still one of the company's most popular modern animated films. The visuals still look fantastic, and the soundtrack is just as memorable as it was when it first released. So, when Disney announced a live-action version less than 10 years later, it felt less like an exciting new project and more like an attempt to cash in on a movie people already love. To be fair, making a live-action remake isn't automatically a bad idea. There are stories that can genuinely benefit from a different interpretation. A new perspective, expanded characters, or a fresh visual style can sometimes justify revisiting familiar material. The problem is that Moana rarely tries to become its own movie. Instead, it spends most of its runtime reminding you how much you liked the original. Scene after scene feels designed to trigger recognition rather than surprise. You see familiar locations, hear familiar songs, and watch iconic moments recreated almost beat for beat. Instead of wondering what might happen next, you're simply waiting for the next memorable scene you already know is coming. It starts to feel less like watching a new film and more like watching a very expensive tribute act. That's one of the biggest weaknesses of many live-action remakes. Animation gives filmmakers incredible freedom. Characters can exaggerate their expressions, environments can bend reality, and magical moments feel effortless because the entire world follows its own visual language. When those same scenes are recreated in live action, they often lose some of that charm. Everything becomes grounded in realism, even when realism isn't what made the original special. The visuals here aren't bad by any means. The island settings are beautiful, the costumes are well designed, and there's clearly a tremendous amount of talent behind the production. But despite all of the technical polish, something feels missing. The original film had a warmth and energy that naturally came from its animation. Here, everything looks impressive but not always magical. It's almost as if the movie is so focused on looking realistic that it forgets to feel imaginative. The performances deserve some credit as well. The cast puts in genuine effort, and there are moments where the chemistry shines through. But strong performances can only do so much when the story is largely committed to recreating another movie instead of building its own identity. Every time the film starts to establish its own rhythm, it quickly returns to familiar territory because that's what audiences expect, and that's really the central issue. This remake isn't competing against your memory of Moana. It's competing against a movie that still exists, still looks incredible, and is available for anyone to watch whenever they want. That's an incredibly difficult challenge because the original hasn't aged in any meaningful way. If anything, revisiting it only reminds you how well it still holds up. It's also hard not to look at the bigger picture. Disney has some of the most talented artists, writers, and filmmakers in the industry. Imagine what they could accomplish if those resources were directed toward creating entirely new stories instead of revisiting old ones. A brand new adventure inspired by Polynesian mythology could have been genuinely exciting. New characters, new songs, and new legends would have given audiences something they hadn't already experienced. Instead, we get another remake that feels more interested in preserving familiar moments than taking creative risks. It's polished, it's competently made, and it's likely to entertain people who have never seen the animated version. But for everyone else, it constantly raises the question of why it needed to exist in the first place. That doesn't make it a terrible movie. In fact, there are plenty of enjoyable moments throughout. It's simply difficult to shake the feeling that you're watching a version of a story that was already told extremely well less than a decade ago. The emotional beats still work because they worked the first time. The songs are still memorable because they were memorable the first time. The adventure is still entertaining because it was entertaining the first time. Ultimately, that's the biggest hurdle this film never overcomes. It rarely justifies its own existence beyond reminding audiences how much they enjoyed the original. And that's becoming a recurring pattern with Disney's live-action remakes. Rather than creating new classics, they often rely on nostalgia for classics that don't actually need replacing. If you haven't seen the animated Moana, this version may still offer an enjoyable adventure. But if you have, I'd honestly recommend revisiting the original instead. It remains one of Disney's strongest modern films. Its animation continues to impress, and its sense of wonder hasn't faded with time. Sometimes the best way to honor a great movie is simply to let it remain a great movie instead of trying to recreate it. If you enjoyed this review, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more movie discussions, and let me know in the comments which Disney movie do you think truly deserved a live-action remake and which one should have been left alone.